Hello everyone. Do you remember what you had for dinner on Monday night? Or for lunch last week Wednesday? Or perhaps for breakfast 3 Thursdays ago? Probably not. In fact, we probably won't remember much of the specific details of many of the meals that we have eaten over our lives. A few might stand out for us, either for good or for bad. And there are some rhythms that we come to know. Maybe you do meat-free Mondays. But for the most part, we don't keep track of the individual meals that we eat. But without those meals, we would starve. That food feeds us. It nourishes us. It allows us to grow. Maybe we add protein to bulk or carbs if you're running or extra veg to be healthy. You don't have to remember the specifics of it, but without it, we wouldn't thrive, and eventually we would die. That's what growing our faith is like. Ongoing, steady soul food that nourishes us and helps us to grow. So it's okay as you approach the end of the year to look back on the year and not really remember the detailed content of every sermon that you've heard or video devotion you've watched or Bible study that you have been to. But like the meals that you have eaten, each one of those has been food that has nourished your soul, that has fed you in some way and enabled you to grow. The question we need to ask then, as we consider all of the soul food that we have taken in over the year, is what are we to do with it? How do we know how to hold it so that it can do more than just feed us, but so that we can live it out? How do we translate all of the head knowledge so that it becomes relevant to how we live our lives each day? This, I think, is what the scribes and the Pharisees were asking Jesus in that well-known passage from Mark's Gospel in chapter 12. Jesus had been debating with some of the Jewish leaders, the teachers of the law, and like today, there was a lot of disagreement over the specifics of the way people had to live. People had opinions, and people had lots of questions for Jesus. So one of the teachers says to Jesus, Jesus, there's a lot of commandments. There's a lot to do. There's a lot that we shouldn't do, a lot to remember. What is the most important? What should we be focusing on? And Jesus says, the most important one is this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. If you want to know what to take away from all of the devotions, church services, Bible studies, fellowship groups, then hear this. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It all comes down to love. And what I really love about this passage is there's been so much debate and questions, and people were trying to one-up each other with better answers than the next person. And the passage says that after this, nobody dared to ask Jesus any more questions. Jesus kind of dropped the mic here. And I think we miss just what a major mic drop this was. Jesus silenced all of the people who were trying to bring him down with a call to love. And we struggle to get our heads around this because we tend to think of love as soft and fluffy. We focus on the Hollywood romantic version, the need to feel love or experience affection. We limit love to an emotion that we feel, and it looks like a sparkly filter on our social media app. And yes, don't get me wrong, there is a feeling element to love. It does originate in the heart. But if we think that that is all that love is, we have got it so wrong. If we think that love is weak or soppy or emotional, we've actually completely missed it. If we assume that loving our neighbor is just being a nice person, then we are far from the mark of what God intended for us. We have forgotten that love is not weak or fluffy or sentimental. Love sent Jesus to the cross, and love held him there, and love raised him from death again, defeating any power of sin or darkness. And in the great cosmic battle of good versus evil, it was love that won. Love, as seen in Jesus, has rigor, and it's uncomfortable, and it involves sacrifice and suffering and putting others before ourselves. It is a call to lay down our lives and to take up our cross, a call to love our enemies and to find power in vulnerability. Love in the Bible is not just an emotion that we feel, it is a path that we choose to walk every single day. And it is that silences the crowd, the costly, courageous call to love the person standing in front of you, whether you think they are deserving of love or not. Jesus said love. And that command, when it is lived out practically in the way that we treat people and the way that we speak to people, is what makes everything different. And so the invitation as you head in towards the end of the year, as you continue towards Advent and Christmas, is to continue to nourish your soul with the food that will feed us, and then to live it out in the way that we love one another. Amen.